Good morning. Good afternoon. Morning. Our company is called Cellular Biomedicine Group. Primarily, we focus on one platform, the stem cell. And then recently, we expanded deeply into immune cell therapy for cancers. In the next slides, I will elaborate the key values of Cbmg. Cbmg is a very young company with major operation in China market, and it got listed at Nasdaq June 18 last year. Since in the past 9 months, 10 months, and then the stock performed very well. I believe increased by 7-fold, simply because we are targeting those big disease and with great progress in clinic. And we're going to share with you during the next session about the data and the value of these clinical programs. Again, currently we have a cancer immunotherapy platform and a stem cell platform. And stem cell platform is really focusing on this OA, knee osteoarthritis. This disease is one of the major degenerative disease without options. At this moment, I don't believe there are pipelines in big pharmas, and there is no effective therapy. At this moment, it's a painkiller and hyaluronic acid as a lubricant. There is no effective drug. The preliminary results we have been released based on 2A trial and now 2B interim data confirmed what we found. The stem cell therapy is very effective to improve the WOMAC, which is a primary endpoint used for osteoarthritis trial. And the secondary endpoint, which is the MRI measurement of the cartilage volume, and showed positive result as well. And then the cancer therapy, we applied CAR-T targeting CD19, 20, 30, and HER1 for solid tumors. We have achieved significant progress. And we have this interim data, phase 1 data for CD19, 20 ready to release. And the data has been accepted, published in a peer-reviewed journal. For now, I think, Ted, should I do Q&A now?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Please, come join me. Yes, please. And there's a microphone right behind you. Excellent. So thank you very much for that overview. I wanted to begin maybe by asking a little bit more about the Rejoin knee osteoarthritis product. You mentioned some results in phase 2A. Maybe you can walk us through that trial design and tell us a little bit more about the benefits that were seen in that study.
Great. Rejoin is a autologous Adipose-derived mesenchymal stem cell therapy. And the process is quite straightforward and simple. 30 cc of fat is taken from abdomen through liposuction or lipoaspirate, and then 30 cc. This 30 cc volume is really, really small if we compare the peers that generally require 300 cc fat to achieve same number of cells. That means we have a very high yield technique to isolate these mesenchymal cells. And then we expand them in GMP facility, and then we formulate, and then finally we deliver these cells in the format of liquid at a cell suspension, not in the frozen format. We have a technology to enable us to ship the cells with 80% of viability to anywhere in the country within 72 hours. Which is very, very unusual. And our normal QC test will show the viability and the differentiation ability in the cytokine profiling. So the cell delivered to the hospital, and there is no manipulation required for medical staff to deliver the cell products. Simply mix A and B, and the cell can be delivered to the kneecap. So the first injection is available in 3 weeks, and then a second injection in another 3 weeks or so. So 2 injection total, 100 million cells will be delivered to the kneecap. So that's the whole program. Now the following evaluation will be primary endpoint is a WOMAC, which is a classic for OA evaluation.
And that's a pain scale, if I'm not
Pain
mistaken.
and
right?
flexibility and well-being, right? And the secondary endpoint is, of course, is the interesting MRI measurement of the cartilage volume. As we all know, one of the key unsolvable problem is the degeneration of the cartilage due to many reasons, and that's why the OA it is untreatable. And then we do see in the 2A trial, we see against the baseline the volume of cartilage increase statistically, and compare the time points 24 weeks and 48 weeks. Now let's jump to the 2B. We see the same result, and even better, the increase of cartilage compared to baseline is significant. Now we have randomized the control drug, which is ARTS. ARTS is a hyaluronic acid. It is FDA approved and CFDA approved drug. That's a standard therapy. So that's our control arm. And in this randomized control arm, it also show slight increase of cartilage volume, and the against the baseline is also significant. But we do see the mean or median of the treatment arm, the cell therapy arm, is higher, although at this time point is not statistically significant. However, the primary endpoint, the WOMAC, the change is so dramatic in the cell therapy group is almost 50% reduction of WOMAC, and versus the control drug is 16%. And that comparison brings very significant statistics. P-value is 0.017. So we'll continue, based on our experience in 2A trial, we'll continue monitor, and we remain optimistic of the next time point.
Excellent. That's really helpful. Now, just to go back to the process, if I may, for a moment, you mentioned that they're autologous adipose cells. How long does it take you to expand these? And is it in a cGMP manufacturing facility in China, since that's where your focus is, correct?
Right. Yes. We have, at this moment, we have a 20,000 square feet cGMP facility. So these from sample acquisition, the fat acquisition, expansion, processing, banking, and the formulation for final deliveries all happened in the centralized GMP facility. I forgot to mention one very critical part. The remaining cell will be banked, and then the cell expanded from 30 cc fat is enough for lifetime supply, assuming through the clinical trial we'll find the frequency of use of the cells possibly maybe once a year, maybe once in 2 years, but the cell number we banked will be enough for the patient lifetime use.
Excellent. That's helpful color. Now, just to make sure I understand, so you mentioned that there's a phase 2B study ongoing and you had an interim readout. When should we expect final data for that? And what are your pivotal or registrational study plans?
The treatments for 2B, 53 patients all completed, and that's why we have the interim data. And the whole wrap-up will be Q3, and the data will be expected to release in Q4.
Excellent. That's helpful. Now, what are your plans then to move into pivotal studies?
And it depends on the final experts review and the regulatory policy. And we are very optimistic that we can move into phase 3 in year 2017. Year 16, sorry.
16, yep.
Yeah,
So
hopefully
next year.
Q1 of 16.
Yep, excellent. That would be exciting. Now, just to make sure I've got this right, the focus is on China, so the regulatory submissions would go to the Chinese FDA, correct?
Correct.
And
Or the other arm of regulatory body, which is called Minister of Health.
Minister of Health.
Right. At
Yep.
this moment, although it's not finalized yet, because of its autologous nature and it's a personalized, so very likely it's going to be under Minister of Health versus off-shelf products what goes to FDA.
Excellent. I didn't know that. Thanks for sharing that. Now, when it comes to the phase 3, and hopefully you'll be able to replicate the results that you saw in the earlier studies in the phase 2b and in the phase 3, how should we be thinking about that market in China? You showed us we hear about the large number of patients, and obviously osteoarthritis is a disease of the aging, and unfortunately we're all getting older, so it's affecting all of our lives. But how should we think about payers and cell therapy in China?
Excellent question. This space is not very crowded. Again, I wouldn't say there is no therapy, but the current therapy is just ineffective. So keep that in mind, and the increase of productivity and changing of the person's life's quality, and in addition to the ease of a pain and avoid amputation, knee replacement, and also associated drugs, therapies, giving all this, the benefit is overwhelming if we pull through the phase 3. And I'm sure that at a certain point, the benefit analysis, now we have already kicked off a program to conduct a health economic analysis, compare the current therapy, which is the knee replacement, and there is a certain percentage of patients will have thrombosis, and the thrombosis requires certain drug therapy, and the drug therapy bringing side effects. And the other steroids and painkiller obviously is not the first choice. And the hyaluronic acid is listed as highly unrecommended in the based on the guideline for International Orthopedic Association. So, given all this, we very optimistic that the government will add this into the list of insurance.
Excellent. That's really helpful. Switching gears to the CAR-T programs, and it makes a lot of sense with respect to your regenerative medicine work, the work also of cell therapy for cancer indications. You mentioned in your introductory remarks CD19, CD20, CD30, and that you have an ongoing phase 1 study. Now, are these individual CAR-T programs, or how does the pipeline work?
Yeah. Please, next slide, please.
Can you advance to his first slide? Thank you.
I'd like to keep the values on.
Cheers.
The CAR-T, we have 4 independent programs, 19, 20, 30, and HER1. 19, 20, and 30 is all for hematological disease. Lymphoma and Hodgkin's lymphoma and malignancy and so on. The HER1 is targeting solid tumors. And that is the much more exciting area, and we are tapping into it. And then I will not release data today, but all 4 programs has reached the point of phase 1 trial. It's completed. And today we can talk about 19 and 20. The 1920 data is excellent. The response rate is about between 67% to 71%, both disease. And then I just want to point out, the patient selection is really one of the key factors that will alter the response rate. The majority of the patients we select are extramedullary lesions, right? And these patients are refractory and at advanced stage. And among these patients, we see 67, 71% response rate. And we also experimented with the CD19 positive patients. We have an autologous treatment, autologous CAR-T treatment for 7 out of the 9 patients. And we also experimented in two patients with allogeneic donor CAR-T cells. And we have very interesting data. Both patients developed a GVHD, and given the treatment for GVHD, one patient still died out of GVHD, and one patient survived and developed a complete chimerism of the bone, and the remission after a couple months. And so that's very encouraging. And we will definitely expand that program by adjusting the technology, the treatment program. The other 7 patients treated with autologous CAR-T19, and the response rate is very good, given the stage of the disease, the involvement of extramedullary involvement.
Excellent. That's helpful. So we have just under a minute left, and I want to congratulate you on your IPO and the stock success. With that $15 million in cash, how long does that last the company?
As of we speak, I don't know, our CFO is sitting down there. I have to say exactly the same thing as he says. Our war chest is much bigger as of today. The numbers changed. We did a pipe. So I think a 10K will be out either today. Tony, is today or tomorrow? So it's close to 20.
Okay, great.
But with that money, it means a lot when we operate in China. The cash burn is much lower without cutting corners of clinical trials. And just to give example why the cost is low, when you do MRI test for a knee, one charge is $2,000. So I guess in the U.S. probably $12,000. That's just an example. So the capital efficiency is very, very high in China. So that 20 million plus existing money, it will last quite some time.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much for introducing us to the CBMG story, and look forward to hearing more from the studies as they roll out.
Appreciate the opportunity. Thank you, Ted.